Hey friends, back with you on an update for the cabinet here, the cabinet build. Pretty much tightened up all of the mechanical components of the build. Done with that, thank goodness. Now my next step, or actually even last night when I wrapped up the day, I put some of this Varathane pre-stained wood conditioner on, and when I opened up the door to come back to do some work today, I was actually impressed with just the pre-stain. It darkened the wood a little bit, the wood took it in very nicely, soaked it up very nicely, just one coat. I'm very impressed with it. So I'm not sure how the stain's gonna look. This is supposedly a little darker than a natural look, just a tad bit darker. So I'm actually gonna test it out and just see what it looks like. Otherwise, I may just skip the step of staining and go straight to the polyacrylic protective finish on the wood itself. And then after I'm done with that, I'm probably gonna let it sit a day, and then I'll do the painting of the drawer, the door fascia. Now, I'm not sure how much I'm gonna get done today. It has, this weekend has been, in terms of humidity, it's been oppressive. I guess not as bad as 3 to 4 weeks ago when we had like humidity, like it would seem like in the 90 percentile range. We were about in the 70-75% range of humidity, but we had prior to Friday, it's Sunday today, prior to Friday we had like a week and a half reprieve from the humidity where the bottom just dropped out of humidity. We had mid to high 70s, low 80s for about a week and a half with hardly any humidity, which was just nice. I got conditioned to it over that week and a half. And then Friday came, it was like boom, humidity, high humidity. I may only get to the portion of either staining or putting on the wood finish here, the protective finish. So we'll see how that goes. We'll let that sit and dry, and then we'll come back, and the next steps will be painting the doors and the drawers with the Thunderbird. I think it's called Thunderbird. It's kind of a blue-gray paint that I've decided to go with on the doors and the drawers. So we'll see how that goes. And the next step after that, I think tomorrow may be painting, depending on how the staining and finish goes. Tomorrow may be painting, and then we'll start working on the upper cabinet build. So the upper cabinet build is a little bit more simpler than this. It's a smaller cabinet, so it shouldn't take as long. And once I'm done with that, then we'll be moving on to finishing up the electrical, tightening that up, and then I'm not quite ready to install this yet. I've got a number of things to do. I feel like I'm working a lot, but I don't feel like I'm making any progress. But I am. I have to be patient with myself and say, yes, I'm making progress, doing the best with what time I have in finishing this build. So I'm thinking once I get the cabinet installed and the lower and upper cabinets installed, before I finish the bed, I'm probably going to take a nice, maybe a nice weekend trip somewhere just to get away and just get some peace out in nature. So yeah, I think that's going to conclude today. Gotta wait for it to dry before I can apply this seal on here, polyacrylic seal, protective coating on there. So while that's drying, I'm gonna make a stop to Home Depot to pick up some paint for the doors and drawers, and then I'm gonna spend the rest of the day maybe doing some planning of my next steps. I'm gonna actually take this into the apartment. If I couldn't see it, take this into the apartment and then start planning how I'm gonna mount the bus bar, the fuse box, and get that ready to go. Now, in my planning stages on that, I still may go with, similar upper cabinet build like this and mount the fuse box to here. I'm gonna lose some space in there. That fuse box is about, I say, an inch to an inch and a quarter thick. So it may not take as much, but I'm trying to preserve as much space in this cabinet as possible for dry goods, things like that. So I'm not sure yet. Again, this is a continual process of being fluid and flexible in terms of how I want this build to turn out. Because I'm not putting the switch in here, it does save a lot more space. And that was one of the considerations why I decided to go the switch on the side as opposed to the side of the upper cabinet, because it actually comes out about 4 inches, or actually almost yeah, I'd say about 4 inches with the wiring coming out and everything. So it would have taken about this much space, 4 to 5 inches of space in there. So now that I've moved the switch panel to the lower cabinet, that's going to save me space here. So, and the way my fuse box is configured, there won't be wires coming out front. The wires go from the bottom. So that may be a consideration too, just putting in the wall and not worrying about mounting the fuse box to the wall. Just putting the fuse box in here and the negative bus bar next to it. We'll see. Hey friends, quick update. Today, I think I'm making a decision on what I'm going to do with my kitchen counter cabinet, what have you. I've stained it, put 2 coats of stain on it, and I'm just debating. I've looked at it. I've gone back and forth in terms of what I want to do. You know, do I want to paint it all white? Do I want to stick with my original plan with stain and then the doors and drawers in a kind of a gray blue? Sitting in the parking lot at Home Depot right now, still undecided. Gonna go in here and make some choices, and yeah, so I mean, either way I go, I can always change it, but I don't want to. Well, maybe a few months down the road it might not be as bad, but once I'm done with this build, I want to be done for a while. So I don't want to be thinking about, okay, maybe I can change this a couple weeks or months down the road. Just want to make my pick and be done. So going to make a decision now in terms of what I want to do, and I'll check back in once I make that decision and let you know what I've decided and which way it's going to go. So. Hey friends, just made it back from my Home Depot run, and I finally made a decision on what paint I'm going to go with. I actually ended up making an extra stop after Home Depot, stopped by the local Sherwin-Williams store, and ended up picking up actually 2 paints from there. Got out to the van and realized, this is not the paint I want. And the thing that stinks about that is that once you tint a paint, Sherwin-Williams, you can't return it because not too many people are probably going to buy that color. So went right back in the store, realized my mistake, you know, didn't fight or anything or ask for a refund on the paint I bought, and give that to someone. But ended up buying the paint I wanted, and it's very simple and plain. You're probably wondering right now, get to it. What did you decide? Well, here's what I decided. Just take this in right here, right now, and then take this in. How do you like me now? I couldn't resist. This is the color I went with. Yeah, not too exciting. Pure white. It is a Sherwin-Williams product. In fact, I got it right here off screen. It is a Pro Classic interior acrylic latex. Interior acrylic latex. So this is their pure white. For this little pint here, it's quite expensive, but I was happy with the application. Of course, there was some stain on here prior to me painting this, and then I put about a couple coats of primer on as well. What I was trying to do, and the reason for my color pick here, I was trying to hide the imperfections in the wood as much as possible. That brings me to another lesson learned in this long extended van build here. That lesson that I learned is the choice of material that you use is very important. Just as I talked about my experience with my flooring, which was like 3 or 4 different pieces of plywood that I tried before I settled on that 1/2-inch sand plywood, which again is a manufactured hardwood, perfect for the floor. Oh my God, because I'm covering it up. But when it comes to cabinetry, you want to spend the extra money if you want it to look nice. And I thought I could get away with this manufactured sand because I was going to stain or paint it. You know, those were the options I was thinking of, and I could cover up any imperfections. But what I discovered is, you know, initially I bought a nice piece of sand plywood from Home Depot. That looked really nice. It almost looked like a Baltic birch. It was so smooth, I don't think I even saw imperfection in it. But because of my changing things around, bad cuts and just like having scrap wood because I couldn't use a piece of wood, I actually had to buy an additional 4x8 foot piece of sand plywood from another Home Depot because they had ran out at the initial place I purchased from. And this piece was more of kind of like a yellowing. I could not find a piece that really matched the initial piece that I had chosen and used early on in this cabinet build. So what I started to find too, as I started to cut that piece, there were some imperfections in the wood as well too, some little divots and things here and there. And I started to notice that as I was staining, and that became a dilemma of, okay, what do I do now? I certainly could leave it stained, or I could just paint it. And I thought, I may as well just paint it, and maybe the paint will take away some of those imperfections. No chance. It didn't happen. There's still some imperfections in here. I could get really particular and do some filler and paint over that, and it's just not worth the time. Again, the lesson is choosing the right materials. If I were to do it all again, and I just may, maybe in the spring, I may scrap this or give it away or something and start off with another piece. If I were to do it again, I'd probably build, instead of a framed type cabinet, I would do a boxed cabinet without a frame. And I would pick a better quality wood, like a Baltic birch, which I see a lot of van builders do, especially the ones who have some really nice vans. I'm glad I didn't do that this time, to be honest, because if I did, I would have wasted a lot of money. That Baltic birch is not cheap. And for me to kind of try something, a new project with an expensive piece of wood like that, I would have been very heartbroken. So I'm glad I got this under my belt, and this is done. Like I say, as spring rolls around, I may decide to pull this out, give it away, scrap it, I don't know, do something with it, and build a whole new cabinet in the van itself. I also looked at, when I was going through my planning process, I looked at Baltic birch, yes, and I also looked at bamboo, and thank God I didn't go with that, because that was even more expensive. It's like triple the price, I think, of a Baltic birch. And there was no place in town that you could just go to the store and buy some bamboo. So that might be something I'd be scared to delve into again, because even with building a cabinet, another time, I would have a little more experience, but I don't think I have enough experience that I would feel confident enough to dip into the bamboo, just because of the price range of that product there. But I know if I were to do it again, I'd probably go with a Baltic birch at least. And it would either finish off well in terms of leaving it natural and doing some stain on it, or even just painting it would look a lot better. So I've got some fine tuning to do here with this. There's some drips and over drip here that I have to just lightly sand out, and some other places that I have to just touch up with some touch-up paint as well too. Also some sanding in the drawers, because just little millimeters of the layers of the primer which I put on here and the paint made the drawers tighter. So especially this one here, which is not square all the way. This one is really tight in terms of opening it and shutting it. It's also squeaking, so I've got to do some light sanding and kind of configuration to get it to work properly again. But that, for the most part, is it for the day. If you've been with me on since the beginning of this journey, I thank you so much. Please, if you haven't yet, please feel free, no pressure, to like and subscribe. I thank you for coming along today, and we'll see you in the next video.